Good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. Hosted by engineering students, for engineering students, and with engineering students and engineers. That say, one of our goal is to get your participation as well as to answer your question. Thanks. So we'll be mostly talking about the questions given in the survey form as well as answering question in the chat. So do leave your question down in the chat and we'll try to slot your question in. I'm Shuwen, and today I'll be your host and the speaker interrogator. And joining me, we have Wei Yang.
Hi, I'm Wei Yang. So for this interesting topic, we have invited two guest speakers. So please welcome Mr. Ashok and Professional Technologist Aloysius.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi.
Shuren.
So Mr. Ashok is currently an Atom CPU validation engineer working at Intel. So he has completed his ECSC degree in Monash, and he also received his master degree from University Technology Petronas in the same field. So next up is uh next up is Aloysius. So he has completed his Bachelor of Science in Housing, Building and Planning from University Science Malaysia or USM. And he also holds a Master of Science in Building Technology from the same university. So he is currently a Certified Information Modeling Manager at Gamuda. So as a ice-breaking session, so can you guys tell us more about your field, like an interesting fact about yourself and the field you are in? So I think Aloysius, you can start first.
Okay, all right. Okay, my name is Aloysius. I'm a BIM manager, Building Information Modeling in Gamuda Engineering, which is the contractor arm of Gamuda. 20 years experience. So graduated from uni in 2001. Then I've been a site engineer, and then I worked overseas in Dubai at the arm of Qatar as a planning engineer, and then I came back as planning engineer and now BIM manager. So quite a number of fields. All right, I think that's the basic.
So yeah, so what about you, Ashok? So do you have anything interesting to say about yourself and the field you are in?
Yes. So I'm working as a CPU validation engineer at Intel for Atom. If you guys don't know what Atom is, it's basically a series of low power CPUs. Now you might be wondering, why do we need low power CPUs, right? I mean, everybody wants the fastest 4 GHz, 5 GHz CPU that can play the latest games or run the most powerful hardware. I don't know what about but but people usually forget that a lot of devices in this world, like mobile devices, you don't want something to be too powerful, otherwise your battery will break. You don't want to call up a friend and say, "Hey, Mike, check out my new phone. It has the latest, fastest, most powerful." You don't want that to happen. So my whole line of work is to design CPUs that utilize power in a smart way and at them in bread and butter of low power CPU. Validation engineer is basically, you can think of it as a first customer. It's my job to make sure a particular CPU design fails. So somebody sends me a design and says, "Hey, we have an Atom CPU right here." And I will say, "I'm about to end this man's whole career." So what I will do is I will write all sorts of tests, all sorts of programs, and load it onto that CPU and pray to God that it fails, right? Because we want it to fail in the company. We don't want to release that CPU into the market, and then we get a whole bunch of complaints saying, "Hey, my programs keep crashing, or my CPU just keeps dying. I keep getting blue screen." In simple terms, that is what my job is. What validation engineer.
Wow.
Right, that sounds quite complicated. Yeah.
It's difficult, and
So okay, so the next question is, in university we often work as a team, right? In group projects and stuff. So I want to ask you both, what is your working experience as a team in the company? So I think Ashok, you can start first. So how is your working experience as a team with other other people from different departments or branches? Yeah.
okay. So uh, this is true for all careers, but I think this is especially true for engineering. One of the most important things in the engineering career is having a good mentor, because if you don't have a good mentor, at least when you're just brand new, you're learning the ropes, you're like a baby trying to crawl, okay, you do need at least someone who's experienced in the field to at least show you a bit of guidance and lead you to the right path. Uh,
Yeah.
a good mentor can either make or break your career. So that is one interpersonal relationship that you have in the working environment in terms of our working with other teams. That is the nature of my job, because I'm a validator. I have to work with designers all the designers will come up with a new design, a new model, and they'll say, "Hey, now it's your turn to validate that design." I say, "Okay, fine, I'll validate it." And then what happens is, let's say I find a bug in the design, right? I say, "Okay, something's not right." Then I root cause and find where the problem lies. And then I have to send it to the designer and say, "Hey, okay, look, there's a design flaw here. Can you please fix it?" And then you can, give it back. And that does introduce some challenges as well, because the designers are usually overloaded with a lot of bugs and patches to work on. So, trying to get their attention is a challenge, So, yeah. But in terms of how different it is from university, it's not that much different. Uh, Pretty sure in university you have your group assignments that you have to work with people and whatnot, and in order to assignments or projects on time, you can apply that same philosophy. You work with other validation and not sure, you can ask your seniors, of course, but to your own self. Otherwise, you don't want to keep asking people because they're also babies. But so yeah, in that sense, it's not so different from university in terms of teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe Aloysius, you can share your experience working with other team or departments. Yeah.
All right. I agree with Ashok. It's not much different from university. It's how your team, how the dynamics of the team. So in your team will have different characters, and some people are not carrying their weight. Some will just show up the last minute to just put in their name, and there will be somebody who does all the work. So it's like that. Also, there will be people in your team like this. But I think the difference in when it comes to work is the different departments you have to deal with. So like Ashok said, they have the design department. So those guys are going to be overloaded. So like ours, we have the finance department. So you need to deal with them. And then you have like engineering department. You have so many departments that you have to deal, and you have to go and you have to build a relationship, your networking. So when you come in new to the company, you feel intimidated. These people are all, people are working long time there. How am I going to talk to him? Who am I?
Indeed.
So that's why he says you need a good mentor. So then he starts off, he gives you the introduction, but then you need to always have confidence and just have to ask the right things. So in teams wise, it's almost the same, but between teams is where it becomes hard.
Mm.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting insight. I do agree with what both of you said, because technically working with team, the student that you are working with will eventually go into the working world as well. So you can expect around the same thing when working in teams in the working world. But how about the knowledge you learn in university? Because there's always a saying that, like, when you go into the working world, most probably what university give you will only contribute maybe like 10% for the knowledge wise. How do you feel about that, Aloysius?
I thought maybe let Ashok answer.
No, it's okay. Aloysius, you can go first.
Yeah, but yeah, correct lah. When you come out there, whatever you learn in university is just the basic. It's so that you don't come there and you're like a deer in the headlights. So at least you know when they're saying, okay, this is the drawing, this is the rebar, what to look for in the drawing, things like that. At least you know what it is. But the whole process, the coordination among the teams, the coordination with client consultants, and the work that's going on at site is totally different. Everything is, it's like you come on first day, you're learning. Until now, I'm still learning. There's so much to learn. So you just have to keep learning, like always trying to find out more, do your own research. So things like that. You have to keep asking questions.
Yes, continuous learning is important to be able to survive in the working world. How
I
about
mean,
you, Ashok? Do you feel the same way?
Yes, in fact, learning actually never stops. Even if you're 100 years old, or you live past 100, if you're lucky, you always learn something new. In fact, I have a bit of a story to share. Okay? My dad was born in 1952, so it's pre-Merdeka. So he was born in an era, yeah, yeah. So he was born in an era where everyone played outside the house. Computers were limited to the US military, right? That's
Yeah.
all computers were. And in the 1960s, where he was in primary school, computers were in university laboratories. And only like in the 1980s, again, only workplace and workstations had computers. And now my dad is like going to be 70, and he's like having a Samsung Galaxy Note. And I can just imagine the amount of things he had to learn from like a caveman era to a time where computers were only in workstations and in universities, and where mobile phones were like this brick with an antenna on top,
Yeah.
to something that looks like this. So, yeah, even for a man like him, it's always a learning experience. Uh, so, yeah, that is especially true. For me personally, I mean, I just want to get back to the question of when you said that we only apply 10% of what we learn in university in the workplace. Okay, here's where I might differ a bit, because I think this one really depends on the nature of your job. It's much more geared towards design and design value. So actually, a lot of things happen in university is by the at least for Intel, at least for my job, because what's the title of EC? I mean, what does ECSC stand for? Right? Electrical and Computer Systems Engineering. Computer systems. That's quite a few units that you guys will. Are you guys ECSC students? So,
I'm from mechatronics.
okay, but you guys, yeah, mechatronics. You guys do take a few
I do
ECSC,
take a lot of ECSC unit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
right? Wait,
Yeah.
yeah, you're also ECSC, right? So there.
I'm yeah. I'm
Okay, yeah.
from
So okay. You have digital systems. You have, and in third year you will take this unit called computer systems, and all
Yep,
these are
yep.
very design heavy subjects. And
yeah.
right, assembly language, computer architecture. These things are absolutely crucial skills you need to have when working as a CPU validation engineer at Intel. And what I will say is this: I did apply maybe 70% of what I learned at Intel, but I will say it's not enough, and it doesn't have to be enough, because the university is supposed to give you sort of like a foundation, and the rest of the things you learn on the job. That is just the nature of it. It's sort of like kindergarten preparing you for primary school preparing you for secondary school. It's not like you're going to learn
True indeed.
maths in
That's a
primary.
good metaphor.
You learn
Yes,
basic
that
maths.
explains everything.
Yeah, you learn maths in secondary. That is just how it is. That's just how it is. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Yeah, I agree with Asha what he said. It depends on the job that you're taking.
Yeah.
So like what you're learning now
Mm.
is all designs and calculations. So if you go into the consultant side of it and design of it, then you'll be using a lot of it. But not everybody's be going to that.
Yes,
You'll
yes,
be going to
Yep,
different
yep.
fields.
So it's like university is just preparing you to enter, but then to excel, you need to learn much more.
correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it also
Then
depends on where is your how to say your passion is, where you want to go and where you feel your career path is taking you. So then sometimes you see like, no, I don't want to do design. I prefer doing something that's like on the side operations. So it
Yeah.
depends on you also. So how is your life takes you lah.
Yes, very true indeed. Since actually both of you kind of agree that a university doesn't really prepare us to do well enough in the job that we're applying, then I'm wondering like what do company look for in fresh graduates since from technical knowledge wise they are not yet as prepared to get into the job. Uh,
Steven,
But
sorry, can I just disagree with you on one
yeah,
thing?
I also disagree
uh-huh.
on
Yeah,
that.
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I won't say that university doesn't prepare you enough for the job. A lot of things that
You need it.
you, a lot of things that you need to excel in the job market, stuff you learn on the job itself. Because a lot of companies have this thing called trade secrets and a lot of IPs and IP, if you don't know, intellectual property that or certain special softwares or tools that they use that only they use and not others use. Plenty of things. Even Intel CPU design. Let me just say this: the CPUs you learn in university, they are baby stuff. Not because they are easy. Okay, I mean it's easier because this is like your first introduction to CPU architecture. And whatnot. But what I'm talking about is all the CPUs that you study in university are like 10 to 20 years old, right?
Ah,
Yeah,
The
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
reason you're not studying state-of-the-art CPU design is because these are all company secrets. There's no way you'll only learn them maybe about the best Intel processor 20 years down the road. You won't be learning all the secret technology now. So that is an example of why I say it's not necessarily a bad thing that you don't prepare you. What it gives you is the attitude and the mindset and the work ethic that you need to enter the job. It's not always successful because you get candidates who are just like makes your head spin. But yeah, generally speaking, if you're a hardworking person, you're a smart working person, you know how to self-learn, you know how to hustle. Yeah, I think he does a great job. At least I know a great job to be.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Aloysius, I think you have something to say just now too.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like I disagree with you that saying the university is
I'm sorry.
you need
I
it. You
get the
need
wrong
whatever
point.
you learn in university, because then when you come to when we see candidates that come for interview,
Mhm.
like Gamuda, we have this competency based interview. So we don't ask you what you're going to be in 5 years time. Everybody can just go and Google that answer and come up with any answer. So it's all fake. It's like you can say whatever just to entertain us, but competency based interview is what you have done. So I want to know what have you done in university? What are the activities? What groups have you been? How's your leadership skills in the societies that you were in uni? So from that, I can base your character whether it'll suit to my team. So things like that. So that's why university builds up all this. So when you come into the team, at least even though your knowledge on the subject is not so good, but we know your character, you're going to learn, you're going to improve
Hmm.
yourself. So that's what
I
university is it builds you up for that. Lah.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah. That brings me to see things from another angle. That's very true. There's a question from the YouTube comment. There are actually two. The first one is asking, as both of you are holding master degree, how much master degree is valued in a workforce as compared to maybe a normal bachelor degree? Probably Aloysius first.
All right. Because now you see everyone come. There's so many degree candidates already out there. So masters is actually it gives you another step in, and it's what master did you do? What was your thesis? All this is important for the job that you're applying for. So depends like, and if you're going for management and you do MBA, so then they know okay this guy did MBA. He has some business behind it. So things like that. So your masters actually just gives you another step.
Mm,
Hmm.
true. But then let's say both master and degree holder is applying for the same job, then how would you choose between these two? Like maybe
Uh,
also from other aspect other than their competency, other than their degree. Yeah.
so degree is the first in to come in. Then we'll see the masters. What did you do in masters?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Then I'll see whether it's related to this the the job itself. But I won't take away that candidate. I will still interview to know the person's competency and the character, the profile of the person before. Sometimes he might have a good master's, but he's not suitable for the team. So things like that.
Understand. How about you, Ashok? Is it different from the field you're working?
You mean the masters that I took? Is it different from the field that I'm working?
The question that was asked is how much master degree is valued in the workforce compared to normal bachelor degree?
Okay, so I pretty much agree with everything Aloysius said. But I just want to share my personal experience because some people when as soon as they graduate they take masters. But for me, I wasn't too sure at first. My story is I wasn't too sure because I was applying for jobs in my final semester, but I didn't actually wait to graduate, right? So in my fourth year, second term of my final semester, applying for jobs at Intel. So actually, the funny thing is, the day my results came out, it was on a Sunday, and then the next day was Monday. I already had to go to work. So yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So I didn't actually think about taking masters at that time, but I did know that a lot of things, especially like what Aloysius said, design teams or consultancies, they pride themselves among things like masters. Intel is no exception. I mean, Intel is an American company, and usually American companies and big corporations, they really treasure master degrees. So much so that when I joined, within 4 or 5 months, they gave me a full scholarship to do a part-time master.
wow.
At UTP. So that was a challenge actually, trying to juggle between work and masters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I lost that much hair though, thankfully. It's more of like, but it was very challenging. It was very challenging. I'm sorry. I don't mean anything by that. Okay.
But it is very hard. I have heard stories about people
Yep.
taking part-time master. It is very challenging, especially for time
It
management.
is. It
Yeah.
is. And because my main worry was, if I took masters, and let's just say it wasn't in a field that the company really wanted, right? Then it would have felt a bit of like a waste to me, right? For example, because
Yeah.
because there's even within electrical engineering or computer, there's so many sub categories you can go into. Because as you climb the educational ladder, things get narrower and narrower and narrower, right? And specialize. So I was specialized wrong thing. It would have been a waste, and I wouldn't really benefit from that. But because Intel just said, "Hey, on the table we give you a master's course. We're gonna sponsor you to do it 2 years part time. Take it or leave it." And I'm like, "Hey, okay, man, I'll take this." So yeah, I took it, and the best part is they immediately gave me a promotion after I finished it. And oh, what's that? Okay, yeah.
Sorry,
They
my phone.
Oh no, it's fine. They immediately gave me a promotion after I finished it, and I got a really, really big increment. And let's just say Intel pays very well above market rate, and when I completed the master, definitely way above.
So that do very value master.
Yes, they're but you just have to be careful, right? When you take masters or in anything that you want to specialize in, just make sure that it's relevant to the field that you want, relevant to the career that you want. That's my
Yeah. So I think it shows that master is quite important in these days where degree is more
mainstream.
common when compared to last time. So actually there's another question from YouTube. So what kind of starter do you recommend for secondary school students? Is there any workshop that is organized in workplaces? So I think Aloysius, you can go
Sorry,
first.
I didn't understand the question again.
Okay. The question is, what kind of starter do you recommend for secondary school
Secondary
students?
school.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
surprised that we have audience from secondary school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but
But we need
secondary school, I think most people, they don't really have that mindset of or goal where they want to be. So unless they really know that they want to be an engineer, then I think it's like maths, physics, this kind of basic that you need to have lah. That's when then you know
Yeah,
what are the
yeah, true.
courses you want to go to. So I think that's on secondary level.
Oh,
Ashok.
Uh, okay, I have given talks to secondary school students based on engineering careers. I was invited to Sunway International School the other day. I mean, virtual, right, middle of the pandemic. But yeah, I mean, when I'm not sure what they mean by starters, as in like what subject you take or what program language you learn or what. So I don't know. If the person in the YouTube comment can give maybe some kind of. But yeah, the subjects you do want to focus on physics, maths, admin, and I don't know if the school offers programming courses. Ahead and sign up because I think these days almost you can't run away from programming. Whether you're mechanical, chemical, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Even non-engineering fields also. I know my sister's accountant. She's learning Python on her own. So it's like even in auditing and accounting, programming can uh, benefit you a lot and give you a competitive edge. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all the advice I can give. You
I think
want
to add to Ashok, yeah,
yeah,
Python is one of the good ones that it's easy to learn, easy
easy.
to
Yeah.
catch, especially for secondary school if you are starting. And like now, I think basically COVID just jump started everything on digitalization. There was a gradual learning, but I think it just like told everybody, no, you have to study now. So anyone you can start with codings and programming. These are the ones now lah. So if you start even in secondary school, maybe you feel like you like it, you have a passion in it, then okay, you can pursue into that.
Just a fun fact, I started coding in secondary school as well, but it wasn't in my syllabus actually. It was
Yeah.
because, I'm a huge video game person. I play a lot of
Uh,
games. I started when I was 3 years old, actually, started playing. So I've always had a huge passion for these things. So that's when I was like in Form 1 or Form 2, I was like, hey, I want to try create my own. That's when I started like learning few basic scripting languages. I don't know, like Age of Empires. I don't know, create my own map, create if this condition, then yeah, my first introduction. That is why when I joined uni in first year when I studied MATLAB and all that, I found it so easy. I just kept scoring HD. But it definitely helps if you have a passion for these things and start early when you're young. But I will say my SPM results and all that were not because my focus was all elsewhere. But yeah, it helped me in uni, but maybe not so much for SPM because I didn't get any scholarship at all for any. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that's all I have.
Actually, now in Gamuda, we have this. It's one of the values in Gamuda is like develop our people. So we have Gamuda Learning Center (GLC). So
mhm.
there they provide courses for all the staff to take up on Excel and coding and for building information modeling. So we always are learning, like I mentioned earlier, like it's always learning. So there's even
Ah,
a story of one staff. He's a mechanical engineer. He was in the tunneling project. So he was in
uh-huh.
charge of but he was not really interested in that. He had coding background. He was learning on his own and all that. So then his boss, like, they wanted, how can we make this tunneling much more faster? Does anybody here? And then they're like, yeah, this guy is not performing on his job, but he likes coding. So like, okay, why don't we get him in? And now he created this program to make the whole tunneling autonomous. So they are drilling all these without operators, and it's the first in
Oh,
the world, and they got awards in UK and all that. So you never know where you're going to go in this one. So it's like the company helps you develop and all. So I always
yes.
think of that.
That's very nice to have all those courses. You are free to choose. Is it any that you're
Yeah,
interested
but
in?
of course it depends on your boss lah. Your superior,
Oh,
he'll be like, because you're taking courses like every week, then you're not at work, right? So it's
yes.
like so things like that, like it's like, okay, next week you can. Okay, this course I don't think is suited for you, you better don't take. So things like that.
Mm, still
Can I
very nice to have.
And
also
like
add
Ashok
on?
said, for the
Yeah, I just
masters, we also have that scholarship for
yeah.
staff to
No, I
join.
just want to add on to that, because usually what I hear, at least when I was in university, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I want to apply for a small company. I want to apply for a small company. I want to apply for a small company." I mean, that's usually a trend, right? The trend among people my age is work for 1 year here, jump work for 1 year there, jump work. That's not a bad thing. I mean, you do what you want to do, man. I'm just saying. But one thing you have to consider, I'm not saying you should go for A or B, but everything has its pros and cons. Because usually what people say, I don't want to work in a big company because they say that not much room for career growth and things like that. That may be true, not from my experience, but it may be true. I mean, that's the general idea of what people have when they're working for a big company, and that's what smaller company to get noticed, easy to play a bigger role. That's certainly true. But one thing big companies do have is usually big budgets, big HR, big budgets, big corporate budgets can actually
Yeah.
provide facilities for all these sorts of training and all that. Intel provides Cisco courses, they provide Python courses, all sorts of things. So I've attended so many training courses provided by Intel. But one thing about being noticed and getting more hands-on experience, you can equally do that as well in a big company. What's important, at least in my opinion, is the size of team. Means you can be in a big company, but if you're in a very small team, it has almost the same effect as working in a small company. Because I
Yes.
work in a small team, so whatever things you do has a big impact on the team, and it's about easy to recognize for your effort. As opposed to you are working in a team of maybe 50, 60 people, yeah, it's a lot harder to get. So yeah, I mean, it's not really related to the question, but I just wanted to.
Is it true
Yeah.
though? Cause most of my friends wanted to get into a big company. Maybe it's different for your friends.
My generation, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like for me, I actually started with small companies.
Ah.
If my CV, you would say that like 10 companies I've worked with already. I've been jumping and jumping. It's like, but my first job was, I told yesterday, I worked with IKEA Damansara. So we started as a small company doing the earthworks. And then it's like the next package that they released was the piling. So this guy was since already there. So he managed to get the project. So we kept doing until the whole building was completed. But we didn't get the major part of it. That was the other contractors. But for me, it was like I started with small companies and then we jumped. And my degree is Bachelor of Science Housing and Building Planning, right? So it's not a very famous degree. No one really knows about it. So when you go for interviews, no one really recognizes it. So I was given a
Mm.
chance in this small company. So from then I was like that. I was jumping from one company to another. But like now I finally ended up in Gamuda, and this is the big company. I've seen how fresh they want fresh graduates and they take fresh graduates. So I can see how they develop the people and all. So there are pros and cons on both sides,
Yes.
like Ashok
Yes.
said. Lah. So whether you
Yeah.
are in a big team, you are a small fish in a big pond, that kind of thing. Lah. So
Mm.
if you're in a big team, you can't really go up kind of thing. But like Gamuda, even though the team is big, but they notice people, and the performance reviews that we do in a way is like we judge every single person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think big or small company, I think that ultimately comes down to preferences by different people has
Hmm.
Yeah.
different way of thinking. So actually on that note, right, for career path, actually I'm wondering for engineers or your friends in general, right? Do they more tend to choose horizontal or vertical path progression? As in, do they like to hop between departments to try out different things, or are they more willing to take up managerial role? So I think Ashok, you can start it first.
Okay. Most of my friends, yeah, they like to hop around. Me personally, my philosophy is yes, I do want to get a feel for everything before I settle down. However, you know, the thing about Intel is they sort of lay the whole groundwork for you in terms of career progression. If you do this, do this, all this, so that go get uh, level promoted to this, meet this, and so that is a lot more career-based approach, and it looks very promising because mean, the answer to that question is it really depends. It really depends. There's a lot of options. So I can't actually give you an answer. But for me personally, I have not. Intel was my first job, and for about going to be 3.5 years. So far, I've not really had any thoughts of leaving and all that. Every part of challenge, every part of it, each time the designers release a new CPU prototype, new model, like hundreds of pages of release notes through new design philosophies to read through, and also the and here's the hard part: whenever it comes with a new design, you have to think new sneaky ways to design. So yeah, that's part of the job I enjoy a lot, which is the main deterrence for me to actually want to check out the so yeah, I mean that is just my situation right now. May change in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. So how about Aloysius? So what do you think about this
I think
vertical or yeah?
for me, because originally I was like that jumping, right? So I was horizontal for a while because I was testing a lot of places and learning a lot of new things. But once you know where you want and you've seen your career path, that's when you go vertical. Then you start going to managerial and up. So I think like beginning it might be, but depends on each person. Some people are more like, no, I like to do managerial, so then they want to go straight vertical. So it's like depends on each individual themselves.
One
Oh,
thing I'd like to add, just the bit managerial cropped up. Most engineering companies, the progression is, engineer, you get promoted along the technical line, and you get to a manager where you get less technical and more people oriented. I don't know.
yeah.
You guys have taken engineering profession, right? That subject.
You
Do you
mean
still offer it?
professional practice?
That is fourth year, right? That subject.
Yeah, that's fourth year.
Did you guys
I
something
believe
similar
it's
in?
a fourth year subject.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, because I took professional practice as well in fourth year, but first year there was a subject called engineering profession as well. Maybe no longer. Yeah, because there was this chart they used to show you on one of the exercises. They always showed this chart. Uh, so like start off as engineer and time landed you start to more managerial.
Ashok, I think you are
Oh,
cutting off. Yes, yes.
okay.
Sorry to cut you off.
So try not
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be me.
So in one of the lecture notes there's a slide where it shows like when you start your career, it's all technical, and then as you go up that path, it starts to become managerial. So things get less and more people oriented, interpersonal skills,
Ah,
and all management skills. Really, I mean, a lot of companies have management training programs and things like that. Intel is actually, and I think Intel is one of the rare cases, and I think there are maybe other companies, maybe like Facebook or Google, are much tech-oriented company. The career progression actually split in two. So in Intel, you have your engineering career path and you have your managerial career path. But of course, everyone starts off as technical. So they have technical grade 3 and you promote to be technical grade 5 and then technical grade 6. But when it comes to grade 7, you can choose. You want to become a grade 7 manager or a grade 7 engineer. So that is where your career starts to branch off. After you management, where you, just a few examples of titles pulled managerial ladder, like vice presidents, vice president, CFO, CEO, for example. That's along the managerial career path. And the technical career path, things like project lead, CPU architect, chief designer, senior fellow. So yes, career path vary uh, vastly, and it's one of the rare. Because sometimes my friends ask me, "Why are you not a manager yet?" And then my answer is because I don't have a career path. And then they will ask me, "But is management career path the path that you want to go to?" And the answer is no. So you see, management is the really high and mighty. But it really depends on the company. For most companies, yes, but for a lot of for like really engineering companies, for example, like Intel, uh, you know, it's actually the technical line that gets better paid most of the time than the managerial line.
Oh, that's
Yes,
a new news for me.
exactly. But I don't blame anyone for thinking that it's completely normal. Even I also thought the same. I was like, yeah, of course I want to become a manager. And I actually found out, hey, what completely different, because if you go in the technical path, you get assigned to roles that not only influence the whole company in general, but even the industry as you go forward. So if you're like a really dedicated engineer and you find like PhD is not something you want to do. Although I will say most people in the technical line do have PhD, especially really senior people, like those are 30, 35 years, yes, they a lot of them do have PhD. But yeah, you do want that option is certainly available to you. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Mm.
That's okay. That's quite interesting. We never thought that. We always thought that managerial role always get paid higher, but I think this is not the case.
Of course,
Uh,
the answer
yeah,
is it always depends. It always
yeah,
depends.
yeah, yeah,
Even
it
at
was,
Intel, it depends. Even at Intel, it depends. They have different methods of paying payment formulas and calculation for bonuses and all these. So yeah, it really. But but the I'm just trying to break the stereotype where they say, oh, manager must succeed in the career, and if you work for 10 years and you're not a manager yet, it means you have failed in the career. Not true. Like
Mm.
so actually, so from your experience, working experience, right? So what are the skills that you think? I mean, new skills, right? So the skills that you never learned before. So what are the skills that you both of you obtain through working? So I think, Aloysius, you can start first. Yeah. So what skills do you get? The new skills you obtain after you start working.
Actually, once you start working, there's a lot of new skills you learn that you never thought before that it's required. One of it is people management and how you earn trust with people. Because when you come in new, nobody trusts you whether you can finish the job and all that. So you need to learn how to earn the person's trust. Another thing is people management because you will get sometimes old characters or get young characters. So you got different characters that you need to deal with in your job as well. And also like what okay, I was site engineer and all that. Now I'm doing then planning. So I had to go through a whole new different software, just Primavera and all this. And then now when I'm in building information modeling, so then there's Autodesk, I'm learning Revit, and there are a lot of new softwares now in Beam, which we got for AR, VR. We got a lot of these rendering softwares. So you keep learning new skills, and then now realize, okay, now we have to learn coding. So like everyone's learning Python and all these things. So like you keep learning new skills. So it's not really like the skill that you learn in uni because uni also is keeping up. They come up with new courses and all. But when you come to your line and what's your career path and what job that you're going through, that's you see what skills that you learn.
Mm.
So Ashok, so what new skills that you get when working at Intel?
okay, so earlier I was talking about Python, right? Uh,
Yeah.
okay, so Intel, when if you join Intel as a fresh graduate, you go through a probation period in which they call a graduate training program. So now, when you join as they call it GT for short, right? Graduate trainee GT. So uh, when you first join, the first month is really just like getting used to the environment. You know where the cafeteria is, what to do here, what to do there, the basic call where to scan here, where to scan. Just the basic. That was like about your first month. You don't really do much. So I'll be honest. I found myself quite bored in my first month. So I was just like, hey, you know what? I want to pick up something that might be useful to me. And yeah, that is actually when I learned Python and SQL. So that's one of the new skills I learned while working at Intel. But all the other things that I learned that is I use on a day-to-day basis is more of an extension of what I learned in university, because I work heavily with C programming and assembly language very long. It's like the holy trinity, right? It's the thing I work with almost every day. But where Python actually helped me is when it came to automating a lot of things. So usually before I joined, there was this guy that always would type out the report and send out the email and say, okay, because like validation, we run a bunch of tests on CPU design, and these tests will either pass. So they'll say, okay, good morning, guys. We ran 100 tests last night, 97 passed, 3 failed. And the report is a bit tedious to type because a lot of details you have to include. So, what I did was I wrote a few Python scripts, and I don't even send a report anymore. I just put the script on a timer, and then people will. I'm sending the email, but no, it's just a bot that is sending the email. It's like, hey, good
That's
morning,
a
guys.
very smart way.
Trust me, you gain a lot of respect by automating things because it makes everyone's lives easier.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Exactly.
and Intel has this culture where they encourage us to write papers. So they have like summits where you can submit a presentation or a paper, and when you write any automation software, just jot down people off what and the opportunity arises. Get a paper, who knows, you might win an award. I've won quite a few. So it's definitely something that you learn on the job as well. Writing papers, you think only in FYP you write papers, right? No, on the job as well, you will be writing. You will be writing a lot of documentation.
Documentation. Yeah.
Also, if you write a program or a script and you want other people to use it, okay, here's the thing. I just need to, because this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. Uh, I know you guys, when you study MATLAB or C programming, they give you an assignment. You just write your code and then you submit, right? And then you just see if the answer is correct according to the answer scene. And it's like, yeah, okay, I don't have to do anything about it. In the working environment, if you write code and you expect other people to use that code or maybe modify that code, you cannot write it in a way that only you can understand. So
Yeah,
there's actually exactly there's a whole I don't know what you call it, a standard writing code, where to put in the comments, how long a line should be, all the formatting that you will have to learn on the job. So nothing is of more. And this is me personally. Okay, I get really frustrated when, let's say, like an intern or a fresh grad comes in and they just write code, and then if their code works, I won't bother them. If their code doesn't work, then they ask me, hey, Ashok, can you please tell me what's wrong with your code? I look at their code, it makes me want to cry. I'm just like, dude, if you want me to help you troubleshoot your code, write your code in a way that everybody can understand, right? So that is one thing you will have to learn as well when you enter the job. This is one thing I agree that the university doesn't do well enough, right? Teaching you how to write clean, proper code, friendly for other software developers. So
Uh, actually, there's a
I want to add
comment.
in
Sorry,
about
sorry.
the skills, right? Another skill that you need to know is your presentation skills.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
yes, yeah.
yeah,
Oh my.
So because you come up with, you've got some new ideas, the bosses are too busy with their things, so you need to come up with a way how you're going to present it to them. It has to have impact and it has to be attractive. So these are one of the main skills that you need to learn. So the technical
And
skills,
the
yeah, you
boss,
need it for your job. You need this to communicate to people. The main thing is communicating.
and sometimes the boss might not be in the expertise of you, and then you need to word it in a way that they could
Yeah,
understand.
it has to be like
That
sometimes you have to be
that's
like a
a bit
layman,
challenging.
it has to,
Yeah.
sometimes even like an 8-year-old need to understand. But now 8-year-olds know more programming, I guess. So like,
This is so true.
There's a comment from YouTube
Mhm.
directed to Ashok because just
Oh yeah.
now you were mentioning about programming. So he was
Uh-huh.
asking, what kind of languages would you recommend for ECSC graduate to learn other than what is covered by Monash?
Okay, so I joined Monash at a time where uh, Java, or I don't know what is what Java that you guys, and wasn't taught, right? I think you guys have a first year unit called a fastest
Yes.
paper. or
Yes.
something.
Yes.
No
Oh,
such
you are
thing
very
during my time.
updated.
Yeah, no, I mean, no such thing during my time. No, the reason I know about it is because that unit got introduced when I was like in second year or third year. So I think I was like the last batch to still follow the old system. So that is how I know that they learn Java and all that. Um, I don't know whether you guys learn Python, but I know you guys learn MATLAB. If you
Yeah, yeah.
learn MATLAB, is Python is like a piece of cake. So might as well just go ahead and pick that up. You're not going to lose out on anything, right? I learned Python in a week. Just so you know, I wrote my first automation script with Python in a week. So if you know MATLAB, pretty much you know
Mm.
Python, right? It's not difficult. Um, in terms of what other programming languages, I think it really depends on the job. Because I know for Intel, they didn't really care if I knew Python or not. Although, although I will say this, for new candidates that I interview, I will test their Python knowledge. So yes, yes, and
Why Python? Not others.
okay, yes, because before I joined, a lot of the people there were maybe like 30 plus. They didn't have that many young people, you see. So when I joined, and this is common, a lot of people think that the status quo is the correct way or the most optimum way. Not necessarily. When I joined, I found that some ways of doing things could be improved, right? I mean, I can't really give an example without blowing some secrets away, but I'm not gonna blow any secrets away, so I can't be very specific. Uh, there were certain things that I just found questionable, like why are we doing this? Isn't it much smarter if we write a program to implement this? And that is when the managers and the bosses started to take notice. Say, hey, but yeah, it's right, especially when you give presentation. Then this is why I say presentation skill is very important, because you need to be able to make a pitch. Like market your ideas to your supervisors, to your boss, to convince them and say, hey, what, this guy actually has a pretty good idea. Why didn't we think of that? You want to give that impression. You don't want to be talking about like, so in line number 5, I commented out this kind of code, and then I did this function. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You will be shocked. I actually saw this problem since my FYP days, because in your final year project, I know in your final presentation, there will be people from other faculties like medicine and
Yeah, yeah,
psychology,
Oh,
right, to view
now it's
your
online is
presentation.
different, I think.
Yeah, but still, I mean, yeah, but during my time, it was
Yes,
COVID and all
yes.
that. And I'm not trying to diss any of the students or anything, but I'm just saying I see the real problem in how they market their ideas to people who have no engineering background. And you also have to consider that, especially when it comes to engineering, people who've been in the field for 30, 40 years may not always totally up to date with the latest trends or the brand new things. So you have to present it in a way that they will understand. Uh, so I said that, why don't we do this, and I said, yeah, okay, fine. So that is when my bosses just went like, okay, you know what? Any new candidate that comes in, they just ask me to prepare a bunch of questions for them and do that. But because I feel like I'm going off point from the original question, um, which which programming language? I can just name a few off the top of my head. Java, but then that's covered in uni. Python, I must stress this, Python. Ruby, Ruby as well. C++ will be useful. .NET framework. I know this sounds like a lot to swallow and a lot to learn. It is. It is. That is why I feel like you have to aim for what type of career you want to go for. Do you want to go in a career that is more hardware design based? Then you will want to focus on things like system Verilog, because Verilog is sort of like the building blocks. You guys won't study system Verilog in uni. System Verilog, you'll want to maybe learn C++ or C. You guys did learn a bit of C++. Mostly you
Yes,
guys focus on C, mostly
yeah,
C,
yes.
yeah.
A very bit
a
of
little bit of C++, right?
yes.
Uh, but other things like JavaScript or and the rest really depends on what you want to go to. If you want to go like a full software engineering, software development route, then yes, all of the above. You will want to at least have some intermediate skills of it, because every software company that you join, they will drill you in technical steps. If you put on your CV, I know Python, they will drill you with a Python question, like so advanced level, and if you can't answer, yeah, you're going to get a bad first impression. However, I just want to say this as well. Most software companies, they have coding interview questions. They will, they will say, "Can you write me an algorithm that does this?" Now, 99.9% of the time, you can just Google common coding interview questions and answers, and those you can just like memorize those bunch of codes and just answer it during the interview. So I'm just giving you a tip there. But that's not going to work with me, though. That's not going to work with me if you apply for Intel, because for Intel, I come up with very creative questions and you cannot find any solution online. It's not something you can ask your seniors. It's not something you can do anything, because one of the things I look for in candidates is their ability to think critically. So I will give them questions like, write a Python script that can simulate the x86 architecture, for example, that can simulate a register. Now, I'm also those are hard questions, but I'm also fair, because I give them about a day to do it. Right? It's sort of like a take-home assignment. And the reason I allow them to do a take-home assignment is because you can't find the answer anywhere. Right? They have to write it out, and then I'll have to go through it and say, why did you write it like this? Why did you write it like this? Okay? Because not necessarily because I want to make the candidate feel uncomfortable. I just want to know their thinking process and logic process. And if I'm impressed, I'll be like, okay, I will hire this guy. Like just like Aloysius said, I'm not going to ask questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years time? Although I did get asked that question by a very by it was one of the big bosses that interviewed me, right? But yeah, you have to be prepared to answer those questions as well. Unfortunately, I don't like them. Yeah, sometimes I have to bite the bullet and just stick with it. Yeah.
That's a lot of insightful advices from two of you, and it has been 1 hour, so I think it will be great if we can take a 5 minute break, and then we'll come back on to finish off the other question by other students.
Okay. Sure.
And then on the meanwhile, um, Roy will share us a QR code which will bring you to the lucky draw form. So, dear audience, please do scan the QR code, leave your name down to be eligible for the lucky draw. Okay, welcome back. So, we'll go to the next subtopic. So, it's about working in overseas and about postgraduate. So I'll ask question about working in overseas. So, I'm not sure whether Aloysius mentioned that he worked in Dubai before, but I'm not sure for Ashok. But if you do have worked in overseas before, how is working there compared to working in Malaysia? So maybe Aloysius first.
All right. Actually, I worked in Singapore for a while, for 2 years.
Ah,
And then I got in Dubai for 2.5 years and Qatar for 7.5 years.
oh, so many
So,
countries.
but Singapore, you work is totally different because
How is it different?
uh, the pressure on Malaysians is higher.
Oh, so they have higher
To
expectation
say
on
it
us, is
politely, lah.
it?
But anyway, yeah. So the expectation is higher for Malaysians over there, lah. And
Oh,
it's much more fast paced than the Middle East. Middle East because the culture. So it's like different countries you go, there's a different culture to it. So Middle East is because they brought in a lot of Indians from India itself. So a lot of
mm.
managerial level is from India, and so they have the way of working in India is very relaxed. They one person job can be divided to three, so then your job becomes very small, and
Oh.
so you become very relaxed. And that's why I was there too long. I guess I was 7.5 years in Qatar because I got too comfortable. So you
It
don't
can be
try
a
to
good
go
thing and a
for,
bad thing.
yeah. So your because the salary is going to be huge, and you're just comfortable. You're like, okay, I'm relaxed. I'm doing this. I got weekends. I'm enjoying. And people think Middle East is horrible, but there's like the entertainment there is way crazier than here.
Oh.
So you are enjoying. You just keep. You're not trying to go up the ladder anymore. You're not trying to improve yourself. And even if there's a new position, they'll just hire somebody else. They don't try to promote the people within the company. So like everyone just stays there and everybody just happy with whatever they have. So the life there is totally different. So at one point I was like, I'm not doing anything here. I need to leave. So then I
Oh.
came back. So I came back
That's
here like, okay,
totally
finally.
different from what I imagined in Middle
So that's
East.
why this is Middle East. So that's why it's like Singapore is different, Middle East is different. So you do not know which country you go. There's a whole
Oh,
different culture to it.
understand. But is it hard to get a job as a foreigner?
Like in Singapore, of course, there's a lot of Malaysians, so they know how we work and all. And in Middle East, when you say you're first, when I go there, they think I'm from India. Then when you find out you're from Malaysia, or there's a whole different level. They treat you differently. The respect is more things like that, lah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but
How about you, Ashwa? I'm not sure whether you have experience working overseas.
No, I don't have experience working overseas. I was supposed to go to the US, you know, 2 years, no, at least 1.5 years back to meet some of the designers, to network with them, to get them to look at some of the affiliates with them. It was one of the main reasons over there. But then, okay, there's two reasons. One was because I was still doing my master's that time, and
Mm.
my when I went to the US, it was clashing with my exam timetable. I actually told my boss that you know what, never mind. I'll still go for the experience and then come back to sit for my exam and then fly back there. My manager approved it, but like the big boss did not approve it. So like, no. And then I was
Oh.
supposed to go again after I finished my masters, and then COVID hit. Yeah, yeah,
I get that
uh,
that surprise for a lot of
yeah,
us.
one thing
yeah.
about working overseas, right? If anyone is planning to go overseas,
Mm.
you're going to leave everything behind. So you're going to start new. So it's like it's a new, fresh start, lah, basically. So you go there, it's not just about the working place, it's your life there also changes. Now you're away from your family. So you make friends with the locals, like not locals, it's normally like in Middle East, we got the Malaysian gang. So we find all the Malaysian people.
Mm.
So things like that, your culture changes, people, everything changes. And the main thing is just, like I said earlier, willing to learn and you're willing to ask. So when you go overseas, and then like in the Middle East, because there's so many nationalities, 80% is foreigners, 20% is only the locals. So 80% foreigners. In my meeting, there was 11 different nationalities. There's American, British, Indonesian, Filipinos, so like everybody with different way of working in one room. So you have to take in and understand where everyone is coming from. That's what's the difference working
Oh,
from
so
an
you
overseas.
have to understand their culture, their background, everything. Oh.
Like the Greeks and Arabs, they when they want to give a point, they shout it. For them, it's the louder you are correct. And can see Malaysians and Singaporeans will like, okay, I'll just keep quiet, let you finish, and then like, so things like that lah. So when you
Oh.
different nationalities in one table, then you realize.
Yeah.
Can I say something? I mean, yeah, actually, I wish I had the opportunity to work, but
Mhm.
uh, I don't know if the question. Okay, this might be a slight spin on the question because
Mhm.
the question was about working overseas. But
Yes.
I think working with people from different nationalities or different countries also I think can be related to this
Ah,
question.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that will
So
be nice to
yeah,
discuss.
yes. So at Intel, I very frequently work with people from the US and people from Israel. So there one thing you have to get used to is odd hours. So sometimes
Oh,
they
because
are
of the
just
time difference,
the
is
time
it?
zone exactly. So
Oh,
sometimes no, with Israel it's not so bad. The time zone is a bit closer. It's like the Middle East time zone. It's not too bad. They can find a happy medium. But if you want to work with the Americans, right? Sometimes if they're in a good mood, yeah, they'll follow Malaysian timing. They're like really tied up. Oh my goodness! Sometimes like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. You gotta be in the call and like that. But also, yeah, cultural differences varies a lot as well. Okay, one thing is the Israelis is the same like what Aloysius said. Like Middle Eastern, they are a bit more laid back and relaxed as well. And one thing you have to try to understand is the thick accent sometimes. So yeah,
yeah,
sometimes it can be
sometimes.
hard. It can be hard to understand. But once you manage to break the barrier, with the American, it depends because at Intel, uh, they hire a lot of nationalities as well. So if it's an American, you can either be to a local American, or you could at least half the time it's some Indian. It is some Indian guy there. So it is usually like Indian from India. So again, that also has a bit of thick accent you have to get to. And if their way of working is different, they are a lot more technical in the way they speak, but not so assertive. But if you're talking to an American guy, like a white guy or someone who's localized there, right? Yes, they can get pretty assertive in what they say. That, in my opinion, I think that's a good thing because it's just like straightforward, direct. I think something is bad, just say, "Oh, I think this is a bad idea. Can we try?" I mean, I'm also sort of like that, it's
Ah,
way. Um, and they also tend to interrupt a lot more. Right? Usually, like working with other people in Malaysia, we wait for them to finish.
yeah.
What the Americans is like, they see something weird in what you're saying, they just be like, "Stop! What do you mean by this? No, this doesn't make any sense. Can you please go back to the previous slide?" That's how it from my
Oh,
experience.
very different from Asian culture.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, very different.
because
Hmm.
Asian is like respect your teacher, let the teacher
Oh
finish.
yeah.
Yeah,
There is
yeah.
no concept of seniority there. Trust me, you can be really senior and people will just interrupt you halfway and just say your idea sucks or something. And that also sort of happens in Penang as well. I think we're so used to working with the Americans that culture also gets back over here. So actually, when I first joined as a fresh graduate, I had a bit of a culture shock because my boss was speaking, and then some guy in my team was just like, "Excuse me, boss, but then this doesn't make any sense. Why? Can you go back to the previous slide? Why is it like this? Why is it?" And I was, oh, oh, okay, yeah. That that was my reaction.
Yeah, yeah. Cause normally what we do is like we wait until that person finish his or her presentation. Then only we ask.
Yeah,
So it's very different. Mm.
So I think we are more passive in that sense. We're a bit more
yeah.
But
passive.
now I can see Malaysians are changing on that.
Hmm.
You can
Yeah,
see that
yeah.
when in my workplace itself, you can see the younger ones, our scholars, lah. They come in and they ask questions immediately. There's no thinking, oh, he's a project manager, I cannot ask. They ask immediately, and actually now management likes this kind of attitude. So
Yes.
sometimes you want to wait till the whole thing finish, you might forget the question and the thing just slips out of his mind. So like if you ask in the middle, then at least we settle that part first before we move on.
Yeah, I think this value is much more highlighted in the newer generation. That's why you see more and more people with this kind of characteristic.
Hey, but this
There's
thing depends. Don't go to a Japanese company and then the
no,
don't do
you,
that.
you,
Yeah,
they
when
will
I was
find it
working in Singapore was with
offensive.
Shimizu, so that's Japanese, and
Ah,
so there is respect is everything.
Yes.
oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
you want to do your homework first, lah. That's what we were saying.
True. That's
And like Ashok said, right, the time difference, like Gamuda has opened a branch in Australia, so I'm dealing also with the Australian branch and all that. So theirs is 2 hours ahead. So all their emails are coming early morning before we go to work. And by the time we start revising, replying it and going through it, they're already back home already. They're not at work anymore. So that's one of the things. Then you have to arrange with
Oh,
them, things like this. So time difference when you're working now, because of COVID, no one is traveling to the other country. So now with all these video conferences going on, now it's easier to deal with them. You don't have to wait. You don't have to book tickets to send staff over anymore. So now all meetings are done from here itself. So this one culture now that is changing.
mm. There's one question from the one of the question that we collected from student. I'm guessing is asked by international students. So they're asking, for international student that want to work in Malaysia, do you have any work tips or work ethics tip for them? Probably Ashok first.
Um, I'm not sure what you can really do all that differently from Malaysians, I guess. I mean, uh, because one thing I do know that Intel we do hire international students,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I can't really say the same for many Malaysian companies because I think I need to go a bit on a dark truth here, because this will get a bit not so pleasant because discrimination is quite a very big thing over here. We don't really have a proper anti-discrimination law. Even I'm Malaysian, and I'm not going to get into how many times I feel like I've been rejected because of certain things that are completely out of my control. But I imagine the same problem would apply to international students, and this is just the real world. Okay, this is just the real world. You have to get used to it. Some people have positive stereotypes associated with them, some people have negative stereotypes with them. This is just life. You have to learn to cope. So I feel like the biggest barrier here is communication, but I don't think there's that many barriers anywhere else. Because I'll tell you one of my experiences, because Monash I know has a lot of international students. I have many international friends who
yeah.
studied at Monash. So they had a career fair at Monash, and then there was I'm not going to name, but my friend who was from India, very, very smart guy, top scorer. He went in there because he's just one person at a time, right? I also wanted to attend the interview, so he came in there, and then like 5 seconds later he walked out. Then I was like, "Eh, so fast, ah!" Then he's like, "Yeah, bro, the shortest interview ever." He asked me, "Are you local?"
Oh,
Like, no. Okay, I'm sorry.
oh. I have been hearing like international students saying that the job opportunity here for internationals are very very little. Yeah.
That's the sad part. I wish it's something we can actually change, but I don't know, man. That requires, I think, Malaysian society in general to be more
Yeah.
accepting of people who are different. But one thing, one advice I can give, okay, try to aim for like the really big companies. I think you have a stand a better chance. Or also
Yeah.
check out their HR uh, background or HR makeup, if you will. Or better yet, if you have friends who are already working in a particular company, right? Sometimes I'm not a fan of who you know. I'm more of a fan of what you know, right? Because all the jobs that I've gotten, it's all based on what I know, right? I didn't really get into any connection. But sometimes, in order to, if you feel like you have an an unfair disadvantage. Sometimes you do need to have like a who you know or someone you can keep in contact with to this open some doors for you. So that is my advice.
Mm. Do you have anything to add on, Aloysius?
Okay, for me, because in Gamuda, like, we have this policy, there's no discrimination. So we do
Mm.
hire international students. Like currently, we are developing this AR using our softwares and all that. And it's actually led by this Indian national. So he's actually, he was very good in it, in Unity and all. He knows how to use Unity software. And so, okay, we gave him the platform, and so he wanted to get some Mango Pros. The company helped him. There's no discrimination on it. If you can perform, we will give it. And
I think big company handle it better.
yeah,
Like
so
they are
Yes,
more
yes.
sensitive in all
so
these
that
things.
HR policy is much more better than that. So that's one
Mm.
thing. And maybe if you're going to a new company, right? In Malaysians, they always want is the respect. You don't come in anything that you're going to be trying to prove yourself too much. First, you respect first, then you want to show, like how I said, your presentation skills and your communication. That's the important
Mm.
part of becoming. And like in construction, like, okay, I'm gonna go race a bit. In construction, is mostly Chinese. So as an Indian going in, it was difficult. But what I did was I was starting to learn all the Chinese words. And of course, you get the
Oh.
bad words first. But
That's usual when you learn a new language.
so that's how then in construction was like. So like my name when I go to the site is Aloy. So it's totally different already. So it's no more because they can't pronounce Aloysius, so it becomes Aloy. So everybody when they say,
Oh.
"Oh, go and see Aloy," they'll be thinking they're going to be the Chinese guy. Then
Oh
there's still
yeah,
like
yeah. It does sound like a Chinese name.
so things like that. So it's not just a foreign student. It's just that you have to be respectful and you have to
Mm.
ask them the right questions, things
Mm.
like that.
Yeah, that's all the question I have for working in overseas. I'll pass to Wei Yang.
Yeah. So actually, so we are going to be uh we are going to our subtopic three, which is the future trend in engineering industry. So actually, for Aloysius, right, I want to ask about your opinion. How does AI nowadays affect the employment of engineering or employment in general in construction site? Do you think it has a huge impact because AI is getting more common, and they say that AI can replace a human? So do you think that is a huge impact on employment? Yeah.
Okay, like for me, I'm in building information modeling. Is do you all know what BIM or not? I just assume
Um,
everybody knew.
I had heard before, but I'm not sure about the details. But I am
Okay,
interested in finding out.
I'll just give a brief lah. Previously, we drew all the drawings on paper. Then we went to AutoCAD. We were doing AutoCAD drawings. So now it's all gone to 3D models. So 3D models, in the models, we put the information. So that's why it's building information modeling. The main part there is information. So when you click on an element, it'll tell you it's a concrete element or is it a brick, is it a steel. So things like that is already in the 3D model. Then from 3D, they have 4D where you can include the time in it. So you can do a whole simulation of how the building is going up in certain period of the construction. And there's 5D where you put in cost in it, so you can see the budget for the building. And 6D is the sustainability, and 7 is the when you hand over the building is for the maintenance of it. So from that one 3D model, all the information is inside there. So that's one thing that everybody
Oh.
thought, oh, shucks, this is going to be like AI. It's going to be taking up a lot of people's jobs. But actually now we need people to run these things. You have these AIs, but you need someone to run it. So for us,
Mm.
that's why Gamuda is hiring a lot of fresh grads because this is the generation that already knows a lot on these things. So when you come in, you can easily adapt compared to the very senior management. There, there's a resistance to change. So I think
Hmm.
AI is not a problem. It's actually you need to learn more about it so then it'll add into your skills.
Oh, so it is not that AI has decreased employment, just that employers are
Doing a
finding
different job.
fresh graduate
Mm.
with different skills when compared to the past era, right?
So like I said earlier, you draw with pencil the drawings. So when AutoCAD came out, they say, "Oh, I'm losing my job." It's not that now you have to learn AutoCAD. So you still have your job, but now you got a new skill. You have to upskill yourself.
That's a nice analogy. Yes. Mm.
Yeah. So for Azure, so Intel is, nowadays they are very emphasized on AI, right? So do you think AI affects employment, not only in Intel, I mean in the engineering field as a whole? So what do you think?
Okay, so uh, just I think I might have to get quite technical here because usually when people say AI, if you just talk to like a normal person, they will just think anything related to automation or machine learning. A lot of buzzwords, right? IoT, machine learning, neural network, AI. All of them they just call it AI. But I'll go a bit more specific. If you're talking about deep learning, neural networks, and things like that. Um, I didn't specialize. I didn't take any subjects related to that. It was I have friends who are doing PhDs in those things. My final year project utilized machine learning, but I wasn't creating any new machine learning algorithms. But I think the full question was it had the word automation in there as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, in terms of how it will affect new graduates, I think if anything, uh, I don't think it will affect it in a negative way. Like what Aloy said, it's a new set of skills that you'll be hired for. So you know, remember earlier when I said I wrote a Python script automate sending the reports every morning. So every morning 9 a.m. sharp, boom. Okay, we get all the test results. Email automatically gets sent out, and you write scripts and develop tools for other people to make people life easier. In fact, I think that is the easiest way to actually climb up the career ladder. Is that when people can recognize that you're bringing a new set of skills that nobody has, right? Nobody has, and you're able to demonstrate that you're able to use those new set of skills in order to benefit the team. It's like you have struck jackpot, right? And in terms of employment opportunities, yes, definitely people will be looking for candidates who have knowledge in automation and things. If you're talking about AI and machine learning, this is much more specific towards software, like software engineering or software development and things like that. That is where it will play a huge important role. In fact, if you do plan on applying for any software engineering companies, do not go in without knowing these things. Machine learning and AI, these things are actually very important for you to add. You must at least have done a few passion projects on your own, right? I
Mm.
personally have not, but then again, Intel is not primarily a software company; it's a hardware company, right? We use, so it's more like a Verilog, and which is why it's actually easier. It's actually easier to demonstrate your skills of automation, for example, uh, to a team that is not well versed in automation. Think about it. Yeah, you for example, you write a program, you write a script, you show it to an experienced software developer. He's going to find a lot of holes and drill you on it. You show it to a guy who's maybe from a business background or doesn't really understand anything, and you say he can do this. You'd be like, you're hired. You're hired. So it's that's my experience personally, because I've applied to trust me, I've applied to software engineering companies before, and I got roasted, absolutely roasted. They made me feel like I knew nothing, and I probably did, in all honesty. And then when I worked for Intel, and when I showed what my script can do, what my automation script can do, I mean, of course, my skills and all that have improved vastly since then, right? But yeah, once I showed that, it's so easy to impress. So that is my advice. It's not necessarily a bad thing. People usually have this fear, oh, automation is gonna take over our jobs. That may be true if you're, I don't know, maybe like you are laying bricks or something, and then a robot may replace that job and put the bricks for you, and then you're out of work. But if you're in like these very technology-oriented jobs like engineering, right? There's really not much to fear. You have to learn new things, yes, but you're perfectly capable of doing it, right? If you can go through 4 years of your engineering degree, you can do your assignments, your coding assignments, your MATLAB without referring to seniors' answers. Okay, I got 0% seniors code. You learn nothing. Trust me. It may be able to get you good grades, but during the interview, it's so easy for me to spot someone who copied the answer from the seniors versus someone who wrote the code
Exactly.
themselves. It's better to write your own code and score lower marks and discuss with your lecturer than to just want to score high marks to get a good CGPA to put on your resume to increase your chances of getting an interview. You will increase your chances of getting an interview, maybe, but you will flunk the interview. So yeah,
That's very
but
true.
but I'm just going to echo what Aloysius said, that it's all about upskilling yourself, and it's perfectly possible for you to do. You went through university. This type of field, I think, requires a certain level of intellect and IQ to be able to do well. And if you can do that, you can pretty much just not impossible.
Yeah.
Very
So can you both of you share about what are your, what are the new breakthroughs in the engineering industry nowadays that is going to have a huge impact on the respective engineering field. What I mean about breakthrough is like maybe a new concept or new inventions and stuff. So I think Aloysius, you can start first.
All right. Okay, I think BIM is relatively new in Malaysia. So this is one thing that's coming up now in Malaysia, and not many companies have BIM departments of BIM engineers. So they normally hire BIM consultants outside. So the thing with BIM is very technology based, and it's like new softwares are coming in every day. Even now, like just now you said automate. So like in Microsoft 365, which the company is providing for all staff, there's already an app they called automate. So you can tell which emails to come out every day and what kind of reminders you have to do. So like that, BIM is now everything is new and digital. So we are using all the softwares that we have there to ease up the work and to be more efficient and all that. So for me in construction industry, BIM is the one that is the latest technology that is coming up. So if you want to go into BIM, like if you're in civil, you need to know like softwares like Revit, how you do 3D models, and then for planning and scheduling like Primavera and all. So this is for you the first step to go into BIM. So for me, construction, that's the technology need. There's another one, if you want to go into the construction site itself, it's called IBS. It's Intelligent Building Systems, where they make the panels in the factory and then they send it to the site. So it's like a Lego thing, like they just come and they fix it up like a Lego. So it's all the piping is already done in the wall, all the electrical system is all done in the wall. And like now with all IoT and all, so they got the fiber optics also in the wall. And Gamuda has its own IBS factory and it's fully automated. So it has it's like a manufacturing plant, it's robotics. And we use our BIM models to be sent to the plant, and the robots start making the panels. Then we send it to the site and just fix it. So these are the technologies now going on in construction.
mm,
So
constantly
what about
improving.
your thoughts, Ashok? So what do you think about these breakthroughs?
Okay, so I can only speak in relation to what I'm specializing in, right?
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm afraid when I explain it, it's going to be so technical because
Technical.
it's so related to CPU. And I mean, because usually when you think about technology, you would think about, I don't know, what's the next, how many gigahertz the next CPU can produce. But I don't think many people, at least university students, will pay attention to things like process technology, because there's a lot of things that actually goes into designing a CPU. So I do have knowledge on that, but I'm afraid I might overcomplicate things if I actually explain it here. But in terms of breakthrough, have you guys heard of Moore's law?
um, yeah.
Okay,
More
yeah,
slow.
yeah. Most
Yeah.
it's basically every 2 years you'll be able to halve the size of the transistors that
Ah,
right. You heard of that, right? I mean that is
yes, yes.
Intel's
Yeah,
brilliant,
yeah.
if you would say. Now, of course, uh, the problem happens when for example, let's say you start with maybe 40 nanometer and then you shrink it to 10 nanometer, and then there comes a point where it's physically impossible to shrink the size of the transistor anymore. Not because we don't have the technology to do it or whatnot, simply because the physical properties of a transistor will change. Each time you actually miniaturize something, some certain properties of it change. So there's a whole team of scientists and PhD holders that work around the clock to figure these things out. Of course, this is totally out of the realm of CPU validations, because this is no longer we're no longer talking about computer architecture. We are talking about microelectronics. So for those
Someone commented Moore's law. I
Moore's law,
think it's,
sorry,
I'm not sure. Someone commented Moore's law. I
yeah,
think he's trying to
okay, yeah,
relate
okay,
to
so
what you're saying just now.
sure. I'll just explain it again. Basically, because your CPU is made up of transistors, right? Not millions. There was a time where it's millions, but now it's billions of transistors on a single chip. Now, the general idea is the smaller you make these transistors, the more of them you can fit on the chip, right?
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
think of it as the smaller your transistors, the more you can fit on the chip, faster CPUs you get, or better performing CPUs. But we also have to obey the laws of physics. And we're not talking about Newtonian physics here, where F equals mc. We're not talking about Einstein's theory of relativity, which
Mm.
talks about the universe and E equals mc squared. We're talking about quantum physics on the quantum level. It's all atoms and electrons and all that. So uh, you do learn a little bit of that in analog electronics. I don't know if you guys still have that subject. Uh,
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm
analog,
actually thinking that this time, yeah.
yes. And in your third year, you will have this subject, I think, called circuits and control. I'm not sure whether it's still being taught, but it's. Oh, did I give you guys a heart attack or something? Yeah, I mean
I
that
don't
that that,
think
that, that was
I
that,
don't
that
think
was a,
so.
yeah that is a very hard unit. But yes, if you like those units, you will be working in process technology. But to get to the crux of the issue, how that will affect things, that will play a phenomenal role in the next generation of CPUs come, right? So right now, our transistor sizes are 10 nanometers. You have companies that, I mean, Intel also has 7 nanometers. It's just amazing to see how far transistors shrink without breaking the laws of physics. But what happens then is CPUs will have to be designed around the fact to accommodate these physical limitations in terms of transistor design. Because look, a transistor is a physical thing and it has to obey the laws of physics. What if you reach a point where you can no longer shrink the size of the transistor? Let's say you've shrunk it down to maybe zero point 0.5 nanometers.
Mm.
And then what are you going to do? So that's where other areas start to come up. Maybe you design your CPU architecture in a different way, or better yet, if there's nothing you can do on the hardware end, you might have to write software in a completely new way to, better optimize your programs and all that. All these things, um, it sounds simple. It's just a transistor, but in the grand scheme of things, it affects your computer architecture, it affects hardware design, it affects the way you write programs, and this is why software engineering is one of the most lucrative skills, because the rate at which software progresses is actually faster than the rate at which hardware progresses. But the problem is your software can only be as good as your hardware. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, sorry if it sounds really dry, but this is the best I can do to actually answer this. It related to my
There's actually a question asking. I think it's good if I bring it up now. What kind of weakness do you see in today's graduate engineers or like what are the main reason they are not chosen after an interview? Perhaps Aloysius?
All right. From the students that I have interviewed,
Mm.
the ones that I do not normally select is the one that who's not confident.
Oh.
So because for me, it's like knowledge you already have because you have your degree. I can see your transcripts and all that. So if you're not confident to do things, you're not confident to ask questions, and you're not willing to learn. So these are the things that I see. If I see the person just quiet and it's like when you ask him, it's like, no, I'm not sure, I do not know, and just aims the question, not really think of a way of answering it. These are the ones
Mm.
I don't really need. So these are the weakness I see in some of the graduates.
So like we should show our best part during the interview instead of hiding it
Mm.
away. Mm.
Yeah, it's like I want you to talk and tell me things because then I can see how's your communication. And like in BIM, you need to deal with the consultants, the clients, and contractors. So if you're going to be timid and quiet all the time, so you can't. That means an introvert can't really perform in the construction site kind of thing. Lah. So it depends
Uh,
actually on what job you're going for.
yeah, I do think so. How about Ashok, do you have anything to add on?
Yes, I do. In fact, I have a bit of bad stories to share. My me, right? Because I I have attended I have attended a few interviews. Well, I've attended quite a number actually, and I made many mistakes along the way. Some, uh, of course, towards the end, I managed to ace them, right? But when I first started, oh my goodness, the amount of stupid mistakes I made, stupid mistake after stupid mistake. And I think this might surprise Aloysius. The first interview I ever attended was in first year, and that was Gamuda. So, yeah, uh,
What year was
yeah,
it?
2014.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2014, I was in first year. So,
For the
but this
scholarship, lah.
wasn't this wasn't for a job or anything. This was because they were having a Gamuda scholarship
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
And one of the I learned so many lessons from that one. And the biggest lesson is come prepared,
Yes.
anticipate the questions, do your homework on the company, and all these types of things. So, just the funny part is I went in. The thing is, the first quote unquote interview was more of like was not really an interview. It's more like a group activity. You see, they'll give you like a case study, see how you work in teams.
Mm.
Play a few mini games here and there. So that one I did well. They saw my and all that. I said, okay, fine, made it past the first. The second part, which is the actual interview, which happened the following week. Uh, Here's the thing, because this generally scholarship programs they want to be underprivileged, right? Of course, those who
Mm.
can score good grades and underprivileged. Now, remember earlier I said I didn't do well for my SPM, right? Instead of getting all 9 A's, I got
Yeah.
like 5 A's, and all the non-A's. Although I got the A's in the important subjects like physics, maths, chemistry, all that. I didn't get A in biology, sejarah, moral, all those I did A.
Uh,
In fact, BM and moral I got a C. So,
BM.
when I went to the interview, I didn't expect them to ask a university student about their SPM results. Anything they would have, I anticipated they would have asked me about my pre-university results because I took OSMAT in 2018. So I thought they would ask me about that because that one my marks were okay. They asked me about SPM, so it's like your BM a C, your moral a C. Then I tried to explain. I mean, I didn't go for tuition, everything. I self-study. Then they were like, why didn't you put effort and go for tuition? And then I just couldn't. I wasn't really prepared. Everything threw me off. And then you know what's the best part? Because you have to send in your CV, right? And then in the CV I put my address. I didn't actually anticipate that they would Google map my address and look at what type of house I was living in. So
Oh.
they're like, you live in a bungalow. Do you really need this scholarship? Like,
Oh. That's so embarrassing.
oh yes, that was literally the worst interview. But At that time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do ECSE. Actually, at first, I was thinking mechanical. Only later, when after my second semester, where I took a lot of the ETSE related units, then my interest completely changed. So yeah, but then the more interviews I attended, the more lessons I started to learn. Number one is, of course, come prepared, right? Always anticipate the questions, do your homework on me and what, and and confidence. Confidence. You need the confidence because some. I mean, this is the real world. Some companies, there's like a bully. There can be like a bully culture, right? Some managers, they get a kick out of belittling their subordinates, and it's very easy to prey on people who can't really stand their ground. Now, I full disclaimer here, okay? I have been bullied a lot when I was in Form 1. Uh, I'm not advocating for bullying or anything. It made me a tougher person, but unfortunately, usually a lot of bullies have been bullied themselves. So when I got tougher, I started to bully other people in and like I'm speaking from my personal experience here. The easiest people to bully are the people who cannot stand their ground and people who lack confidence. Of course, I don't bully people anymore.
You
I've
grown up.
matured as a person. Yeah, I was a stupid person in high school, right? But, after growing up, of course, I know it was something terribly wrong that I should never have done. But yeah, so that is one thing. Confidence is also another thing. And the way to build confidence is to attend mock interviews, try to join more clubs, try to join more societies, try to take on a more. I mean, like what you guys are doing right now for the podcast. I think that's a huge confidence booster. Even if you're a good at first, taking part in things like this definitely gives you a huge confidence boost, and I think you can use it to your advantage at a later point in life, right? Because usually there's this thing called commanding respect. Some people, you just look at them, they command respect. You just look at them, it's like, whoa, okay, this guy means business. I kind of respect the guy, right? Like Aloysius say, I look at him, it's like, yeah, I respect him, right? But, yeah. So confidence is another thing. And another thing, okay, technical skills. Please, please, please go through your lecture notes, whatever it is. If you think
Revise before going
yes,
for an
revise.
interview.
Yes.
Yes.
You know what? And it's so easy. You know why? Because a lot of the engineering technical interview questions, you can easily Google them. You can just Google common electrical engineering interview questions. Boom. You know, what is the net of a three-phase circuit vector? Next one, write me a bubble sort algorithm. It's just you need to do
We
your
can
research.
anticipate.
Exactly. You not sure how to write your resume? Just Google. I mean, I wrote my resume. I just Google. I look for what catches the eye. What would do. I did all my homework, and I did that. And trust me, the results speak for themselves. Suddenly I find myself getting more calls for interviews. Suddenly I find myself being a lot more happier after the interviews. Right. The first time I went, I felt so terrible after every interview. Yeah, like, why did you answer the question like that? I should have said this lah. But yes, I don't know if Monash has sessions where they have mock interviews. If they do, make full use of it. Attend every single mock interview, even if you feel like a pro at interviews, just attend. And always going with the mentality that hope for the best, but expect the worst, right? Hope for the best, expect the worst. Don't expect to walk into an interview and thinking the interviewer will like you, right? You have to earn the respect of the interview. So yeah, that's all I have to say from the interviews I've done with other people and the people whom I've interviewed.
I'd like to add to Ashok, right?
Yeah.
Because you see, you went through all that failures, that's what builds your confidence. So now you know what to ask, what to look for. And for you all now, you all have this Google. My time, I don't have to go. I can't go and look for how to impress in your interview, how to do better resumes. Because we had to go through books. I don't know if you all know about books.
It's very unfamiliar thing for me now.
Library.
all those books in the library, they are just for the look.
Display.
But yeah, but I think that brings the same point as well, meaning like you need to learn from experience. You need to be daring to try and learn from it. There are
Yeah.
actually a lot of questions coming up
Oh.
from the YouTube, so I'll just read it out. There's another question directed to Ashok again.
Mm-hmm.
For Ashok, what's your thought on the AMD Intel CPU war?
That is
I'm
a
not
big
sure
topic.
what's that.
That is
I'm not sure what's that.
a hot topic, yeah. A hot topic
Yeah.
Uh,
in the tech
Okay.
field, yeah.
So, sorry. What? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, from a completely unbiased view, I support Intel.
unbiased.
Unbiased. No, but in all seriousness, yeah. Uh, Intel has its fair share of problems, just like every other company. AMD also has its fair share of problems. A lot of things. Uh, so I'm not going to say who I support and not, but I will tell you this. Yeah, I will tell you this. I will tell you this. Uh, you guys, during your third year, you will have to go through industrial training, right? Internship
Yeah.
and what.
Yeah.
Let's just say when I was in third year, I applied to Intel for my internship. I didn't get any response. And third year was the time where I saved up enough money to build a gaming PC. So I was deciding, should I get an Intel CPU or an AMD CPU? I didn't get a response from Intel after I sent in my CV, so I'm like, okay, I'm getting an AMD. So my gaming PC right now has an AMD Ryzen. But then, of course, I couldn't predict the future. And then in the future, as a fresh grad job, I get a job with Intel. So I'm like, okay, maybe if I had a time machine, I should have gone back to the past and say, hey, dude, go and buy an Intel CPU. What are you doing?
Uh, I should rush for the other question also.
Yeah, so
There's a
next,
next. Yeah, maybe I pass it to Wiyang to ask.
yeah, so there is a next question from an audience. So he said that he have heard rumors about employers favoring engineering graduates from universities from neighboring countries. So, do you think there is any basis to this claim in the industry? So, maybe Aloysius, you can voice out your thoughts on these issues.
Actually, no, we don't favor any universities. For me, it's like you did whatever, because the university has a big name and everyone goes there, it doesn't mean other universities do not produce good students as well. So for us, is if you came out, you graduated, okay, then now the interview is when I can test your skills, your knowledge, and see your character. So for me, universities, for Gamuda, we don't see which university you're coming. It doesn't matter which country or what.
So,
Yeah,
how about
I kind of expected that answer.
yeah? So, how
Okay.
about Ashok? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same for Intel, but I cannot say it's the same for every, like your common company, because what I can say is this, and this is also my advice for honest graduates: do not tarnish the name of your university. Okay? When you join a company, if you cannot earn a good name for yourself, at least don't earn a bad name for yourself. Okay, don't go join a company and then sleep on the job and not do anything and fail every assignment you do. Because the next thing, because at the end of the day, it's usually the hiring managers that make the decision to hire someone. And look, human beings are not always rational people, right? Of course, policy wise, they will say, we are equal to every university. And of course, most people should be equal to every university. But just like racial stereotypes exist, university stereotypes also. So that is why do all you can not to ruin any name. Right now,
Yeah.
Monash has a good standing. You can thank me for that, but so yeah, hey, I'm doing you guys a favor, okay?
No, but what is it
Nah,
correct? People create this perception one person comes in like, oh, okay, this guy from this university,
Correct.
so the people coming from there, so they create this judgment,
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
so that's it. So
Mm.
don't give a
Because
bad name.
yes, yes. Because at the end of the day, right, it's still a human being making the decision, unless unless if it's an AI or a robot, which I support. I support making the decision to hire someone. Then yeah, there will always be someone who has a bad experience from a whatnot, and then becomes very biased against the
Yeah,
community, which is
that
wrong.
might be possible.
Which is wrong. So
Mm.
yeah, it really depends on them. I think this is more of a risk in smaller companies because there's no like big HR department where they have like a policy and say we don't discriminate. They don't have like a website that says we don't discriminate against race, sexual orientation. So small companies they just do whatever that. I mean, I've never worked in a small company, but I think lah. I mean, Aloysius would know, but yeah. So yeah, maybe it's not very true for big corporations, but it might be true for small companies. But I'm not really in a position to confirm nor deny it because I don't really have the first-hand experience.
It might be possible in
Yeah,
other
it
companies.
makes sense though. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's possible too. Actually, we do have a lot of questions coming on, but our time is up. So that's all
Okay.
for what we have for this episode. Uh, Thank you, Aloysius and Ashok. You have been very
Yes.
great guests. Thank you for everyone who's listening. We hope that this episode have answered most of your questions and you are better prepared to make decision for your career.
Um.
Uh,
Yes.
Can I say something? Sorry. I mean, if you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
have any questions, you can add me on LinkedIn and whatnot. I can answer if you have any questions. I don't mind, right? I don't mind helping you guys. And so, sure.
We do include your LinkedIn account link in
Okay.
our question survey form. So I'm sure that if let's say
Okay.
our audience have any question, then they can approach you.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to add that don't think that
Yeah.
construction is only civil. There's a lot of
Uh,
M&E engineers. Like now, my department actually I need M&E engineers. So
that's a hint, guys.
and we actually have Gamuda M&E, so they do all the M&E works and all that. So you
Mm,
don't just think it's like your field is narrow to one. There's always
like
even
it's
you go to hospitality, they still need M&E engineers. So it's
but
all
there's
over.
a lot of possibility where we can go. Mm.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have
Right.
something to
Thank you
add?
very much. Yeah. So for our listeners, so don't forget to fill in a feedback form for this event. So your feedback is very precious for us to improve our future events. So yeah. So after all, our events are organized to help you to learn something and hopefully that you guys gain something from this podcast. Yeah.
Just to add on, the feedback form is in the description of the video, and Roy will post the QR code for the last lucky draw. We'll announce the winners in our Instagram, so stay tuned. So I'll pass to you, Roy.